Today is May 28th, 2025, and across the United States, well, things have been ramping up and we're getting a lot of energy into the atmosphere. Right now, we have three different areas of severe thunderstorm watches and an area of a tornado watch happening, and we've been talking about severe weather and flooding in this video. And across the United States, well, we have a very rare 4 areas of slight risk weather. This is something I've not seen before ever. We have one over here in the plains, over here in Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Northern Panhandle of Texas. Another one over here in Central Texas. One over here in Western Texas, and one over here in Louisiana and Southern Mississippi. We literally have 4 areas of slight risk. Tell me if you guys have not seen this before, because let me tell you, I've not seen it before. So this is definitely turning into a rare situation happening. Now, 3 out of the 4 slight risk areas are going to have a tornado risk. Again, Western and Central Texas will have those 2% chances. However, we do have a 5% chance, mainly in Kansas and Oklahoma, where like I said at the beginning of the video, they put out this tornado watches. So beware of potential tornadoes in any of these zones, really, because they can still happen. The hail threat for this severe storms are going to be mainly the hail. We do have 3 areas, kind of like with the last tornado risk, of slight risk of hail, 50% chance. And we also do have a little hatched risk over here in Kansas and Oklahoma of some hail. So 2+ inch hail is very possible with these storms. We do have a wind threat, but instead of Western Texas kind of seeing like that slight risk of, severe weather threat, this time for the wind threats over here in Louisiana and Southern Mississippi. Central Texas and Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and the Northern Panhandle of Texas will still see that, slight risk of wind damage. Now, overall, this event is kind of very broad because they only issued a slight risk, but there's like a slight risk for literally everything. For tomorrow, there's actually one slight risk, and that's over here kind of in like west central Texas kind of region for, the slight risk. We do have a very large marginal risk extending throughout 10 plus U.S. states. So this could be a big, very broad weather pattern still. 3-hour slight risk does continue kind of over here in the Carolinas. They might expand this too, depending on, how much it shifts north or south. So, beware. It's still day 3. Stuff can change, but the Carolinas already have basically a guaranteed slight risk outlook. So, Columbia and Raleigh, Carolinas could be under severe weather. Now, for flooding for tomorrow, they already have put out a slight risk for flooding across the Dixie Alley, southern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, as well as the Panhandle of Florida, and a lot of Louisiana is going to be in this. Kind of a bit more broad, mainly stuff in the southeast and the mid-Atlantic could be seeing just a small chance of flooding. Not really much of a big deal we need to talk about, however. I know as I'm making this video, we do already have storms kind of in Colorado and Kansas, as I showed you the watches from earlier. We can see already we do have storms down here kind of moving through Kansas into Oklahoma. Straight line winds are going to be moving down here. The hail threat is going to be our biggest threat up here, especially, with the hatch risk. So embedded hail and embedded tornadoes will happen. And then as we kind of move into overnight, those storms will kind of die down, will kind of weaken down, turn maybe into a little bit of a more flood threat, but that flooding threat is kind of going to move towards the southeast. So it is going to be quite a quick moving storm as it moves through it. So this is only going to be one round. So once it's done, it's done. Now then for the southeast, you can see that coming for the next day, those storms, that moisture from the Gulf will be moving through Alabama and Georgia. And, we could be seeing those straight line winds kind of, pushing through. And this could spark some flooding too, as we have a lot of moisture moving in, kind of right in the morning hours to, noon time. And we could be seeing, lots of flooding throughout this whole, southern Dixie Alley region. So beware of flooding and also embedded severe thunderstorms. Now, another thing I do want to talk about is temperatures because, summer's coming in and temperatures can be very dangerous, especially when you're out on the beach and not having sunscreen. So, real quickly, I do want to talk about those as you can see, kind of going in the midnight. Kind of right now for the rest of today, a lot of like the Northeast, Mid Atlantic, and the Plains, Great Lakes regions will be on like the coolest side of things. Down here in Florida, we do have those, up to 95, maybe even isolated spots of 100 degrees so possible, which is kind of about average for what we see in, the end of May into the beginning of June. Where we're probably going to see a lot more, warmer temperatures. The plains might be a little cooler than average, a little bit in the Northeast too. As we get into Friday, a lot of the country is actually going to cool down a little bit. You can see is that we have more open spots over here in the Northeast and a little bit into the Rocky Mountains. However, California, with those, heat advisories, we could see temperatures, 100 degrees, heat indexes up to like 105. So, California has been dealing with some heat problems lately. And then going into Saturday, into the weekend, things will start to warm up again. Total precipitation throughout the rest of this week into the weekend going through this. So areas in like the south, for example, we could be seeing up to 4 inches in some places with our flash flooding. Even over here in the plains, you could see up to 3 to 4 inches. Over here in the Ohio Valley, we could be seeing again another up to 3, even maybe 4 inches in localized places. Over here into like near Philadelphia, we could see up to 5 inches of rainfall, which through the weekend, that's a lot of rain that's been happening. All right, last thing for this weather update video that I do have is talking about, the rest of the country. Now, right now, those storms are going to be moving through the mid-Atlantic into the Northeast. We have 2 low pressure systems. One is going to kind of die off and move on course to, the Northeast and kind of just move over the Atlantic, move out of its way. And then, we might even see, another line of storms moving through the Ohio Valley that could be causing more severe weather and flooding up to the Northeast too. So we got to be aware of that. Now, for the rest of May, I think it's going to be very quiet for the most part. You guys don't like it when I say quiet because, stuff still happening across the country. And then as this kind of moves up, it'll kind of get dry a couple days, and then stuff will start to ramp back up. Over here in the plains, another low pressure system forms, and that is kind of going to be moving its course out to Canada. We could still see rain, across the northern tier of the lower 48 moving through. And then after that, we could, have a bunch of random storms coming in. It's still kind of after, 200 hours of making this video, so it's still kind of like not really valuable data that we seek yet. So, yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. If you guys like to see another one, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.